By the time the fourth squad car fishtailed to a stop on the gravel shoulder, I was already digging into my second plate of bacon. I lounged on the porch of my old cedar cabin in flannel pants and a worn-out hoodie, feet propped up, coffee steaming. Behind me, the lake was completely still, morning fog curling across the surface like the world's most relaxed screensaver. In front of me, absolute pandemonium. HOA. President Denise Harrow was rooted at the bottom of my steps like an irate. Flamingo in designer yoga pants screeching at a sheriff's deputy who looked minutes from retirement. "That man is illegally camping on association property," she shrilled, thrusting a perfectly manicured finger at me. "He refused to comply with board orders. He's armed. He's aggressive." I lifted my mug. I'm holding a spatula. "Denise, you threatened the board with it." She snapped by flipping bacon. I asked. The deputy sighed and looked at me. "Sir, can you confirm your name?" "Owen James Mercer," I said. "Born right here in Mercer County. Social ending in," and I rattled off the last 4 digits. That's when the sheriff himself pulled in. No lights. Dust cloud behind the truck. Sheriff Ray Delaney stepped out, took one look at the HOA mob, Denise vibrating like a tuning fork, me in porch slippers, and pinched the bridge of his nose. "Morning, Commissioner," Ray called. The HOA flock fell silent. I took a calm sip. "Morning, Sheriff." Denise blinked. "Come, what?" Ray stepped past her up the first stair. "Ma'am, you dialed 911 reporting a violent squatter refusing to leave HOA land." "Yes," she snorted. "We have minutes from 3 meetings. And a formal vote designating this area as Lakeshore Haven common property. He's trespassing." Ray cut his eyes toward me, then pulled a folded page from his pocket and held it up. "Miss Harrow," he said, "this cabin sits on parcel 001001. Same parcel as the dock, the shoreline, and roughly 600 surrounding acres." He nodded at me with the faintest hint of humor. "And all of that," Ray added slowly, "belongs to the Mercer County Land Trust," meaning I lifted my mug and salute me. A ripple moved through the crowd. Denise's jaw spasmed. That's absurd. The HOA owns the lakefront." Ray exhaled. "Ma'am, he doesn't just own the lakefront." He gestured broadly, turning in a slow circle. "He owns pretty much the entire county you're currently standing in." 6 months earlier, my biggest thrill had been the grocery store finally restocking my favorite hot sauce. I was 39, quietly wealthy software architect who'd cashed out of a startup before anyone thought to turn me into a LinkedIn inspiration. Quote, "Instead of buying a yacht or a glass box penthouse, I bought my childhood county." Technically, I bought it through the Mercer County Land Trust, a holding entity my accountant built after the county went broke. Mercer had bled money for years, shrinking tax base, creaking infrastructure, and a doomed destination water park that mostly bred mosquitoes. When their bonds tanked, my firm scooped up a bundle of distressed municipal debt for cheap. I actually read the paperwork and realized something insane. If I restructured the county's debt and took on certain liabilities, I would end up with legal title to nearly all the acreage outside the town limits. Forests, shoreline, abandoned. Mill sites. The commissioner saw rescue, saw a massive conservation project and a quiet place to fish for the rest of my life. So I did it. Formed a land trust, brought in real lawyers, and took ownership of thousands of acres. The deal saved the county and let me protect most of the woods forever. At the center of it all sat my favorite place on earth, the old family cabin on Wren Lake, built by my grandfather long before zoning had opinions. Perched on a rock ledge with a hand-built dock, a creaky porch swing, and the best sunset view in 3 zip codes. Then the developer rolled in. They bought farmland across the road and built Lakeshore Haven, a curated lakeside community with white fences, grain-white houses, and wine moms who said things like, "Yo, we adore the lake lifestyle," while posting HOA agendas on Facebook. Desperate for tax revenue, the county approved it. The developer signed a long-term shoreline access lease with the land trust. Residents could use the road to the water, the community dock, and the trail around the bay in exchange for a modest fee and exactly 0 authority over the cabin. Then construction finished, the developer vanished, and the HOA reins dropped into the hands of Denise Harrow. Denise was a weaponized Pinterest board come to life. Recently divorced, newly transplanted, and chronically bored, she had the hyperfocus of someone who once terrorized a corporate marketing department and now wielded bylaws instead of brand decks. Within 3 months, she'd banned kayaks that weren't neutral colors. She issued citations over aesthetically disruptive bird feeders, forced the landscaper to replant the entrance flowers because the purple looked to Halloween. And then, on a morning stroll around the bay, she saw my cabin. Weathered cedar, green roof, wood pile, actual personality. She saw an eyesore. I saw my grandfather in every board. It was only a matter of time before she decided it needed to disappear. The first contact was almost civil. I arrived one Friday to find a plastic sleeve taped to my porch railing, flapping in the breeze. Inside was a letter on HOA letterhead with a logo of 2 tasteful reeds and a generic bird. Notice of noncompliance. Unregistered structure. Dear occupant, our records do not list your cabin as an approved dwelling within Lakeshore Haven. Exterior condition, color palette, and shoreline access do not meet community standards. Please contact the board within 10 days to discuss options for remediation or removal. I read it twice. Took in the 1950s cabin that existed long before Denise ever inhaled air, and laughed under my breath. I emailed the listed contact. Hi, Denise. The cabin isn't part of Lakeshore Haven. It predates the subdivision by roughly 6 decades. It sits on Mercer County Land Trust property. Parcel 001-0001. You have a shoreline access lease over a portion of that parcel, but the cabin is not within your authority. DE lease and survey attached. Best Owen. She responded in 8 minutes. Hi, Owen. While your sentimental connection is sweet, all structures that visually impact Lakeshore Haven fall under our architectural harmony guidelines. Your building is adjacent to shared amenities and visible from multiple homes. That makes it subject to our rules. Please be ready to present your deed at the next HOA meeting. Warmly. Denise Harrow, President Nees. I did not attend the meeting. Instead, I forwarded the exchange to my attorney, who replied, "Oh, excellent. An HOA, I needed entertainment." Denise interpreted my absence as a personal insult. Things escalated immediately. I arrived to find neon orange violation stickers slapped on my dock posts. Unapproved structure, incorrect stain color, and a laminated notice tacked to a tree private. HOA members only in my tree. Another sleeve on my door, no overnight occupancy, amenity storage only. I caught her once marching down the hill with 2 board members following like frightened ducklings, tape measure in hand. You can't be down here, I told her. She smiled with the patience of a kindergarten teacher. As board president, I have inspection rights. On land you lease from me, I said. Not on land you've decided to pretend you control. She waved that away. This entire shoreline is functionally part of Lakeshore Haven. It says so in our community vision statement. I pointed to the metal survey pin under her shoe. Your lease stops there. 2 more inches, and you're trespassing. Her eyes narrowed to slits. Then came the Facebook posts, forwarded to me by the single neighbor not afraid of her wrath. They said sadly, "We have a non-compliant cabin on our lakefront. It's occupied by an uncooperative individual refusing community standards. We must protect property values from squatters exploiting loopholes." After that came the invoice. Annual Lakeshore Haven dues past due Lakeside cabin, $3,800. Line items, back dues. Dock repainting fund security camera initiative to monitor unauthorized usage. I snorted at owner Lakeside cabin. I mailed it back with 3 words in red ink, "Return to sender." That might have wrapped things up if Denise possessed normal levels of pettiness. Instead, she drafted a new agenda item for the next HOA meeting. Action. Authorize legal removal of unauthorized cabin structure. I learned about the legal removal. Planned the same way everyone learned anything in Lakeshore Haven. Screenshot from the Facebook group. Sent to me with "Dude, you need to see this." I showed my attorney, who said, "This woman is a walking lawsuit generator," and opened another folder. 2 weeks later, on a bright Saturday morning, the board made its move. I was on the dock cleaning fishing gear when I heard gravel crunch up top. I looked up to see a small procession making its descent. Denise in a linen blazer, clutching a clipboard. 2 board members gripping manila folders like tactical armor. And a random man with a tape measure, apparently the muscle for the operation. They strode right past the Mercer County Land Trust, authorize access. They signed and arranged themselves like they were about to stage a palace coup. Owen, Denise called, we're here to serve formal notice. You're already trespassing, I said. So let's call that strike 1. She held out a folder. I didn't touch it. This structure, she said, flicking her pen toward the cabin, has been deemed non-conforming by unanimous board vote. It must be vacated within 72 hours, so we may begin remediation and conversion into a community amenity center. I stared at her. You're trying to evict me from the land I own so you can turn my cabin into a clubhouse. It will benefit everyone, she insisted. You are frequently here alone. That is not equitable access. I wiped my hands on a rag. This is going to sound wild, but I don't care about your board votes. You cannot evict me from property you do not own. You're occupying an amenity, she snapped. We voted. You're out. I reached into a crate on the dock, pulled out a folder, set several documents across the picnic table. The deed, the plat map, the lease, all neatly highlighted. This is my land, I said. This is your lease. This is exactly where your authority ends. I'm not in your HOA. I'm not leaving. Please walk back up the hill. Denise's smile hardened into something sharp. She slapped my documents into the lake. Oh no, she announced dramatically to her entourage. He just assaulted me. I blinked. What? She staggered back a step, hand to her chest. He grabbed my arm when I tried to serve notice. He threatened me. He said, she paused like an actress, he said, I own you people. I had said none of that. Her hand closed around her phone. Fine, she declared. If you won't respect the HOA, you'll respect law enforcement. Denise, one of the board members, muttered. Maybe we should, but she was already dialing 911. Hello? Yes, she said. Said voice trembling with theatrical fear. I'm the president of the Lakeshore Haven HOA. We have a violent squatter on community property. He's refusing to leave. He grabbed me, and he's threatening to destroy the cabin. I think he may be armed. He has tools. Yes, we're afraid for our lives. I just stared at her. You're lying to 911, I said. That's literally a crime. She turned away, presenting her profile to the lake like she was filming a daytime drama monologue. Please hurry, she whimpered into the phone. He says he owns everything, and we're just guests on his land. I pulled out my phone and sent 2 messages to my attorney. It's happening. She just lied to 911. Doc camera got everything. Then another to Sheriff Ray Delaney. Ray, Denise, just called in a violent squatter situation at my cabin. Doc cam's rolling. Coffee's on. Then I sat back down, opened my tackle box, and waited. You could hear the sirens long before the cruisers appeared. What Denise imagined? A full-on tactical sweep to drag a raging intruder from his lair while she bravely pointed the way. What actually showed up? 2 patrol cars, the lake patrol boat, and Sheriff Ray Delaney's dusty F-150. With Ray looking like a man who'd already used up his patience quota for the month, the HOA gaggle clustered at the bottom of the cabin steps. Denise took center stage, hair fluffed, eyes shimmering with practiced sorrow. The squatter is inside, she announced, gesturing at my open door. He was just out here threatening us. Ray held up a hand. I've already seen the dock camera feed, ma'am. She blinked. What? My security setup, installed by a paranoid electrician. Buddy had a direct link to the sheriff's office because of an old break-in years back. Ray had watched the whole show on his laptop as he drove over. He nodded at me. Morning, Commissioner. Denise visibly flinched. Why do you keep calling him that? Because he sits on the county commission? Ray replied mildly. And because he chairs the Mercer County Land Trust, which owns this shoreline. And because last I checked, he also signed the check that bought the new fire engine y'all like to brag about. A few HOA members shifted nervously. Denise's face contorted. Irrelevant. He's still subject to HOA rules when he's on our lake. It's my lake, I said. You rent the privilege of looking at it. Ray pulled a printout from his folder, the same lease she'd pretended didn't exist. County seal stamped in the corner. Ma'am, he said, pointing downshore. This lease gives your subdivision access to the shoreline trail and the community dock. In exchange for an annual fee, it specifically excludes this cabin and the 50 feet around it. She folded her arms tightly. We voted to extend our jurisdiction to all visible structures. That's not a thing, Ray said flatly. This isn't Harry Potter. You don't magic up land rights. He flipped to another page. Also, you told 911 he grabbed you and threatened you. The video shows him standing 6 feet away, asking you to leave, while you threw his documents in the lake and made up quotes. One board member winced. Yeah, we saw the camera. Ray's expression hardened. Filing a false report is a criminal offense. So is trespassing. So is harassment. Denise's bravado cracked. I was scared, she stuttered. He said he owns us. I replied, that I own the parcel your amenities sit on, and most of the surrounding forest. And the old quarry, and the strip mall where you bought your yoga pants? Few people let out uneasy laughs. Ray looked at the group. Let me make this simple. Mr. Mercer isn't a squatter. He's the legal owner of this cabin, this land, and the ground under your Lakeshore Haven sign. He paused to let that settle. And he's been patient. A lot more patient than I'd be if someone tried to evict me from my own front porch. A tentative hand lifted. So, can the HOA tell him to leave? Nope, Ray said. But the land trust can tell the HOA to leave. He turned to me. You still considering that lease, Commissioner? I shrugged. Depends how long they plan on harassing me. Color drained from multiple faces. Denise rallied, voice climbing in pitch. You can't revoke our access. That would destroy our property values. I studied her a moment. Denise, I said slowly, you called 911 and tried to have me removed from land I've owned since long before your subdivision existed. You've sent fake notices, trespassed over and over, and ignored every piece of proof I gave you. I nodded at Ray. Time for the grown-ups. Ray turned to her. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us to the station to make a formal statement. She jerked back. Am I under arrest? Not yet, Ray said. But if you walk away, you will be. The HOA fell silent as Denise was guided up the hill, sputtering about her rights and how the board would hear about this. I watched them go and exhaled. The momentum had shifted, and it wasn't shifting back. The real explosion happened a month later at the Mercer County special hearing on Lakeshore Haven HOA conduct, moved to the courthouse because every commissioner wanted a front row seat. The room was packed. HOA members clutching manila folders. Local reporters circling like sharks. County employees taking early lunch just to sit in back. Me in jeans and a blazer beside my attorney. At the front sat the 3 commissioners, my chair empty because I was recused the county attorney. And a very serious woman from the State Office of Community Associations, a department that felt invented specifically to handle people like Denise. Denise herself sat at the opposite table with her lawyer, looking paler, thinner, and significantly less smug. County Attorney Morales stepped forward. Today's hearing concerns the conduct of the Lakeshore Haven HOA in relation to the Mercer County Land Trust. False emergency calls and attempts to assert authority over property they do not own. She clicked a remote. The screen filled with stills from my dock cameras, Denise stepping onto my parcel, tossing my deed into the water, melodramatically clutching her chest as she dialed 911. Then the 911 audio played. We have a violent squatter. He grabbed me. He's threatening to destroy the cabin. Please help. I'm terrified. Then the silent video rolled, none of that actually happening. A wave of collective cringe swept the room. Morales froze the frame. As you can see, there is a profound discrepancy between Ms. Harrow's report and reality, she continued. The fake notices were baseless. The HOA vote to absorb the cabin as common property was void. The lease explicitly limits their shoreline rights. Attempting to bill the land trust for dues was by technical definition creative extortion. Then the bombshell. A slide titled Lease Termination Clause, Section 12. In light of this pattern of harassment and abuse, Morales said, the Land Trust has exercised its contractual right to terminate the shoreline access lease, effective 30 days from notice. The room detonated in murmurs. A man shot up. You're kicking us off the lake? I rose for the first time. Not entirely, I said. Just off the parts you've been abusing, pointed to the map. Cabin, parcel in green, community dock in yellow, trail in blue. For now, the public launch stays open, I added. Your property rights are intact. You can still see the lake. I let the pause linger. But the private dock, trail, picnic area, those were privileges the Land Trust offered them in good faith. Your HOA weaponized them. The oversight officer stepped in, her voice cool, precise. Our office is imposing the following. 1. Removal of Ms. Harrow from any officer position in Lakeshore Haven, with a 10-year ban from serving on any HOA board in the state.
Denise
Whipped toward her attorney. You said they couldn't too, the woman continued. Mandatory governance training for the board. 3. State monitoring for 3 years. For a recommendation that your D&O insurance carrier review the claim. Translation: astronomical premiums. Morales resumed. Regarding the false report, Ms. Harrow has accepted a plea, probation, a $15,000 fine, and 200 hours of community service education about when not to call 911 to enforce HOA rules. My attorney muttered, poetic. But I wasn't finished. I walked to the easel and flipped to a fresh map. The lake, the parcels, the trust holdings. I don't want war with my neighbors, I said. I want to drink coffee on my porch without being evicted by a logo. A ripple of laughter. So here's the offer. The Land Trust will sign a new access agreement. You'll get your dock and trail back, but the terms reflect reality. I read, HOA acknowledges cabin parcel exclusion. HOA waives jurisdiction within 50 feet of cabin. Any harassment voids agreement. HOA permanently bars Denise Harrow from board, committees, or advisory roles. Someone snorted loudly. I looked up. You want lake access? Sign it. Morales turned to the board. Decline, and you'll be hiking to the public launch. They requested a recess. Returned 5 minutes later. We'll sign, the interim president said, voice trembling but steady. On one condition. The room tensed. That she glanced at Denise, never have to hear the phrase community aesthetic again. The room broke into laughter. The commissioners voted. Agreement accepted. Denise slumped, trembling, face colorless. The gavel dropped. $15,000 fine? 10-year HOA ban. 200 hours teaching people not to weaponize 911. Denise stared down at the desk, jaw clenched, eyes glassy with rage and humiliation. She opened her mouth, closed it, then abruptly stood and stormed out, her lawyer scrambling after her. The county hadn't just backed me, it handed me the mic and watched her HOA crown dissolve in real